travel isn't just about destinations. It's about the people you meet, the cultures you immerse yourself in, the stories you carry home. I'm Relebogile Mabocha, and on my travel feature, I take you on a journey beyond the guidebook. Each week, I connect with fellow travelers, insiders, and storytellers to bring you the heart of every place. Whether it's a hidden gem right here in South Africa or a dream destination abroad. Join me as we travel through conversations, memories, and inspiration. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
All right, let's bring in Jeff Wicks now, who is an investigative journalist with News 24. He has done incredible work reporting about one of the people that were mentioned by Mkhwanazi, General Mkhwanazi, in that briefing yesterday. So Jeff will tell us more about that person and the links that he has to some of the police's top brass as claimed by General Mkhwanazi. Jeff, thank you for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Thank you.
So there are two individuals that General Mkhwanazi mentioned. There's an individual by the name of Brown Bukhosi, whom General Mkhwanazi claims is a close associate of the Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu. There's another gentleman by the name of Vusi Cat Matlala, whom we are told has been in discussions with Bukhosi, who is in turn an associate of the minister. Just help us understand who these individuals are, and are they really linked from the investigations you've done to some police's top brass?
Yeah, I think, Clement, it's best to start with the cat, Vusi Matlala. He's someone who's been a point of focus for us for a while now. He first appeared on our radar in 2022 when we found that he'd been making money through the Tembisa hospital scandal, first exposed by Babita Deokaran. He had 5 shell companies which were part of a larger extraction syndicate, and that investigation was obviously set in motion by our reporting, but we stayed on him. And Mr. Matlala reinvented himself midway through last year and ended up getting a 360 million rand health services tender from the police, essentially the same organization that's investigating him for procurement fraud in the Tembisa matter is now paying him to do their health services. And he has a range of other problems. I mean, he's found himself on the wrong side of the law, charged in relation to the attempted or botched assassination of his former lover, Tebogo Tobojane. So he's a controversial figure with underworld links that stretch back many years. And I think the point of contention in Mkhwanazi's briefing yesterday was to say that obviously Matlala, with the assistance of this Brown Bukhosi, allegedly appeared to have been conspiring to disband a political killings task team because they had a lot to lose, specifically Matlala himself, because this was the same team investigating him and the same team that's actually brought him to court and charged him for the botched assassination of his former lover. So scandalous in the extreme.
Okay, so this is the guy Matlala who's been arrested. Was that the work that was done by this special task force, the political killings task team?
Yes, indeed. That was the same team that was investigating Matlala. Okay. Obviously, the docket is being handled by, and Mkhwanazi spoke to this yesterday, elements of the Gauteng Organised Crime Unit, but then they were augmented by this political killings task team.
Okay.
And the narrative advanced by Mkhwanazi is that obviously the entire team is now collateral damage because they flew too close to the flame with some powerful individuals who called on their political connections and paid to do so.
Okay. There's a 300 million rand tender as well within the SAPS that involves this Matlala chap. Can you tell us more about that? Was it cancelled? Is it still on? What's the story there?
So the 360 million rand health services tender was awarded in June last year to a small company Matlala founded. He had no experience in the health services industry and the company was less than 5 years old, yet it won this nearly 400 million rand tender. And we've been reporting on all the irregularities in that award. And then eventually in May, that contract was cancelled outright. And that cancellation came just days before Matlala's arrest on the Tobojane matter. And now he still sits in jail awaiting trial, and he'll appear in court on Friday after he abandoned his bail.
What does this tell us? Because General Mkhwanazi yesterday said there's a discussion about this 300 million rand tender between Matlala and Bukhosi, who is an associate, we are told, of Minister Senzo Mchunu, where Matlala threatened to expose Bukhosi and go to the media because he's not getting some kind of assistance. It looks like Matlala wanted Bukhosi to talk to the minister, and the minister must now influence that 300 million rand tender so that it's not cancelled. What did you make of what General Mkhwanazi said yesterday about this communication between Bukhosi and Matlala about that contract? What does it tell us?
I think it's significant in a sense that it shows us the extent to which Vusi Matlala has political influence and sway, even if it's for a fee. And it also speaks to his access to high-ranking members of the police. I mean, Mkhwanazi said that, Mr. Matlala was one of the first people to get the letter disbanding the political killings task team, and that's incredible. I mean, I thought my sources were good. He's obviously better, but we don't. But we don't pay.
Yeah.
But it tells us that the uppermost ranks of the police, not only in the SAPS but in the ministry, are susceptible to approach and perhaps influence, and that's only on the basis that any of this is true.
Yeah.
It remains a glaring indictment on the probity and the credibility of the SAPS, and this is a serious problem, borderline crisis, I would say.
Oh, it is indeed. So if it's proven, and I mean, Jeff, the minister has been asked before whether he knows Bukhosi, Brown Bukhosi, if it is proven that the minister knows this chap and they are close associates of sorts, whether comrades or friends, I mean, that would be quite damning, because this is the man who has been in conversation with Vusi Matlala from the conversation, the WhatsApp messages that General Mkhwanazi read yesterday. So that would be quite a big problem for the Minister of Police.
It would be significant, especially considering he's already on record in Parliament as saying he doesn't know this man. So I think that's going to be where the sting comes from the minister. And it's something that was conspicuously absent from his statement yesterday. I mean, he defended his integrity, but he did nothing to explain the link or non-link between him and Mr. Mokgotsi. And I think that's going to be a significant point of focus going forward as this saga unfolds.
All right. Jeff, thank you so much, man, for chatting to us, and great work on just the stories that News 24 has published about. Just go check them out. I'll tweet some of the links, but they did even put up another article this morning on News 24. Go read about this gentleman, because he doesn't just start receiving a tender late last year, the 300 million rand tender from the police. This is someone you can trace back to the contracts that came from the Tembisa hospital. And once again, if it is established that the police minister is a close associate of Brown Bukhosi, who has been talking to this Vusi Matlala, then that's going to be a big problem for the Minister of Police. I don't know how he is going to explain or get out of that. It's 18 minutes after 10.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
7:02. Let's walk the talk.
All right, let's hear the other side of the story now. Mary de Haas is the KZN violence monitor, and I call it the other side because there were two things that were central to that briefing yesterday. One, these individuals that Jeff Wicks explained to you and how they linked the Minister of Police. But two, it's the issue of the political killings task team. There are claims from Shadrach Sibia, who's the Deputy National Police Commissioner, that this task team was full of people who are now becoming to be a law unto themselves. And that's why a decision was taken that this task team be disbanded and these guys, the special task force members, can go back to their individual units. And then that now becomes a crisis for General Mkhwanazi, who says the reason they're disbanding that task force is because it's investigated and uncovered some really serious stuff that implicates the top brass of the SAPS. Mary de Haas is a KZN violence monitor. We have spoken to Mary many times about the political violence in that province. And Mary, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement and listeners.
Yeah, so when this task team was appointed, there was some kind of, well, not excitement, but it was welcomed because the political killings were becoming a crisis. They started doing their work. From what I remember, they appeared to be doing something right, and then something clearly happened. Just, can you tell us what your assessment has been of their work?
Yes, I certainly can. Listen, first of all, task teams. I've worked with the police since 1990, right? Task teams were set up in the 90s, for example, to deal with very specific problems, and they were disbanded. They didn't go on for 6 years. No, but 6 years now. 2018, almost 7 years. Right. Now, they have a mandate, and that is the mandate was always pretty vague, because I can tell you, even if politicians die, you don't know if they're linked to politics, or if it's a personal thing, or a business thing, or a taxi thing. Okay, but they were supposed to investigate cases that had political. Now, please bear in mind that my database on the political killings was used by the commission, the Morani Commission, right? And I did carry on keeping lists of people with political connections, like in municipalities, senior municipal people, or councillors, or MPs. Now, of those cases, I know of very few that have been solved. Right. One that they like to boast about was 6 life sentences for Ntuli. In fact, it's absolutely disgraceful that, and I'll come back to Khumalo now, that's where the overlap is with Mkhwanazi. And Khumalo kind of boasts that, well, he got this conviction. He's not a detective. He's not an intelligence person either. But he was put there by Clearly to head the team because ORS were threatening a rebellion against him. Okay, so he Clearly put him in the political killings team. Right, now that one thing they boasted about was done by Warrant Officer Makuba from the Hawks, the very one who opened the second docket in the Maiwa case, which should have been prosecuted. Mm-hmm. Okay. Makubu got that conviction. They have no right, and they wanted to get him out the task team because this is what they did. Mm-hmm. The minute you expose politicians, they wanted you out or they prosecuted you. And I can give you cases of that. There's a man called Dlamini. He was in the political killing, he was in the provincial team that arrested the alleged killers of Sindisa Magaka, prominent ANC leaders. Right. In comes the task team and withdraws the charges against them. Then in comes a prosecutor who's a refugee from Gauteng, where he was warned he better get out, and he has drawn that case out. Right now, as I speak in court today, the man who pulled the trigger has finally managed to make a confession, but he had more to say and he was prevented from saying it by the very prosecution team now. Yeah. Okay. Now that's ongoing. So the people who are widely accused of killing Magaka were let out immediately by the task team. And
what does that say then about the task team, Mary? Because they're
there to cover up. I'm absolutely sure they're here to cover up for politicians, because every case, and I said, look, please remember, I sent this to Parliament last year. I asked for a copy to the Minister. I asked for an investigation into the task team. I produced cases. I mean, one of the things that Mkhwanazi says is, well, he was stopped from investigating syndicates in Gauteng. Well, we know there are syndicates in Gauteng. One of them is going to be in court next week, I think, in this Crasher link case. It's got nothing to do with Mkhwanazi. It's got nothing to do with his mandate. And this is the other thing I think people don't understand. The mandate relates specifically to politically linked killings. They're taking cases which are not their mandate. They're not supposed to be investigating corruption and organized crime. That's the Hawks. You know the case of the two forensic lawyers in Cape Town they arrested?
Yeah. So, Mary, are you suggesting that because
arrested them with balaclavas and rifles, and it's not their job to arrest people for corruption?
And that's what Shadrach Sibia, who is the Deputy Police Commissioner, says. So are you agreeing with the Deputy Police Commissioner, Shadrach Sibia, in that this task force was becoming a law unto itself?
Yes, absolutely. I've documented it. It's all on record. It's on record with ministers. I'm in a running battle with the NPA to try and get this prosecutor out because of the independent allegations of corruption against him, and he's ruining cases. Did you see the headlines in the Sunday Times yesterday about people buying their way out of being prosecuted? I've been witnessing that in KZN. There's one man. I'll give you one example now. There's a man called Mzintli. He was actually an MK guy who was integrated as a road traffic inspector in the Lower South Coast. He uncovered information about the killing of the man who was the speaker in the Lower South Coast a decade or more ago. His information about who killed that man is exactly the same information that I have. In comes the political killings team and fabricates charges against him of supposed fraud. They were all fairly minor charges. They refuse him bail. They never investigate the killing of the speaker, right? And the Hawks never investigated the corruption allegations he made in the Renkonyeni municipality. Mm-hmm. Okay, they put him in prison, and these people who they maliciously arrest are let down by their lawyers. In fact, there are allegations the lawyers are bribed by the prosecution. That man spent 5 years in prison on fairly minor charges compared with murder, attempted murder, kidnapping, mm-hmm. Supposed fraud or supposed defeating the ends of justice. Okay. He spent 5 years in prison. He was almost poisoned in prison. He would have died if another prisoner hadn't eaten his food. And 5 years later, in May, he finally gets to court with a proper lawyer. All the charges against him are withdrawn in terms of the section that there's no evidence.
Yeah, so where does this leave then the task force? Because the police minister disbanded it, in December last year or so. Early this year, General Shadrach Sibia then asked for cases to be transferred to his office, some of the dockets, because now the individual members of the task force must go back to their units. But now, from what I heard in the briefing yesterday by General Konazi, he seemed to indicate that the work of the task force continues. So is this disbanded or not?
Look, the minister disbanded it officially. You must remember this is illegal. This minister doesn't behave like the last minister. When I saw that briefing, I thought, no, who scripted this? I don't think it was Mkonazi. I must tell you, Mkonazi, Kumalo, and Masagomola go right back. They're all operational response people, right back to the 90s. Right. They stick up for each other. And I'm saying these are allegations that I just pass on for investigation, including to Scopa, the Auditor General. Local police tell me that Mkonazi has been financing the task team operations after the official disbandment from our provincial budget, which is millions overdrawn. There's no food for prisoners in cells. There's no money for petrol. They stay in hotels. Officially disbanded. This is a legal instruction from a minister. I could understand if it was, as with the last minister, he just ran the police and gave illegal instructions. This is a legal instruction. The minister works through the National Commissioner, not provincial commissioners. The letter went to the National Commissioner. They can't complain that it was never received.
But do you understand, Mary, why it looks suspicious that this task force, and yes, even if maybe they operated outside of their mandate and they investigated corruption, and we can look at that. You've addressed why that is problematic. But do you understand why it's suspicious that after they supposedly uncover something that implicates some police's top brass, and then you see them being disbanded, and then that makes you wonder, that makes you think, what could be at play here? Is it really because they've uncovered something and some associates of the minister are now being looked at? Or is it purely because really they haven't been doing their work properly?
It's because they haven't been doing their work. Look, Mkonazi's worried about syndicates. And I must tell you this, syndicates go back to apartheid. They're the ones, the police in the apartheid government ran the drugs in townships in Durban and the Cape Flats. Right. And the syndicates have just gone from strength to strength. And it's not Mkonazi's job. We should have another Scorpions type unit that's completely independent of the police for that. And if Mkhwanazi felt so strongly about syndicates, he could have dealt with the ones in his own backyard at Rocks. That's where all the syndicate people live. They've got the money. They run the drugs all over middle-class areas in Durban. They run them in townships. Mkhwanazi should have been, if he wanted to deal with drugs, as provincial commissioner, but he's not been doing that. No. And why is he going on about Gauteng? No, I mean, look, he can make what allegations he wants, but the problem is it was not his job as a provincial commissioner to have a media briefing. He must, open the case if he thinks there's
I think he has opened it against the Minister of Police.
Well, that's fine. And he must go to Parliament because they're the people that oversee the minister, not the media.
Yeah, got it. Mary de Haas, KZN violence monitor. Thank you so much for chatting to us. I thought we should bring her on because she has written letters, even I think sometime last year or so, to the police minister, probably to the commissioner as well, to Parliament, raising concerns about the behavior of this political killings task team. And I thought I should bring both these two guests, Jeff and Mary, so that you get this context I'm talking about, that things are not just at face value. Some people are complaining about this task team that Mkhwanazi was overseeing, that it was a law unto itself, and those could either be legitimate concerns or delegitimate concerns. But there's serious questions as well about the individuals that were mentioned by Mkhwanazi who seem to somehow be linked to the Minister of Police. As I said, none of us, this doesn't work for us as South Africa. And I'm glad the President released a statement yesterday. I hope there can be an investigation as soon as possible. And hopefully the Police Minister can appear in Parliament as well to respond to what's been said so far. And if there's a case against him, it better be investigated. Because if this is really true, what was revealed yesterday, we're in a crisis, my friends.